Welcome back to the channel, and I have a video here from Tony Gaskins, and many of you might know him because he actually is a dating coach out here in these YouTube spaces. He's been out here for a long time, and I actually thought what he said in this particular video was interesting. So as you see what is on the screen, I'm all about marriage. I do things a little bit different than people like Mr. Gaskins, so we'll get into what he says, and then I'll give you a little bit of commentary of what I would say, based off what he says. So let's get to it.
You never tell a man about your trauma. You take your trauma to a therapist. You go to a therapist if you need life coaching in addition to therapy to do something else like write a book or something if your therapist can't do that with you. But you do not take your trauma, your pain, your past experiences, things you've gone through in the dark, things you went through as a child. You don't take that to a man. And when we say don't tell a man, what this really means is you're not telling a boyfriend. You're not telling someone that you're not going to spend the rest of your life with. And you don't know you're going to spend the rest of your life with somebody until you're married and it's on the right track and it's going the right way. And even then, it's not a guarantee. And I want you to understand, husband, your trauma is he will judge you by it, and he may also use it against you. Now, yes, there are men who are great with this type of stuff, but that man is 1 out of 10, maybe 1 out of 100.
So his whole thing today he's talking about is 5 things a woman should not tell a man up front. So that is his concept today. So we're going to break all these 5 things down. So the very first thing he is basically saying is he does not encourage women, all right, because he's mainly talking to women here. And for those that are new to my channel, I actually talk to both men and women. And sometimes, depending upon what I'm saying, I'll get hate from one side or I'll get hate from the other side. But again, my goal is marriage, for those that watch me. So I just recognize it comes with the territory. Everybody's not going to be happy about everything because, hey, when you talk to both sides, that's just how it is. So what he's saying right there, honestly, I think it can go to both men and women. I don't think it stops and ends with women. And one of the things that I'm always saying is once you get beyond the 3 major things that men are looking for and the 3 major things that women are looking for, really both sides are almost the same. There's not a lot of difference in men or women once you get to that point. And it's always interesting to me that people make these, videos or whatever. And nothing against Mr. Gaskins, because I know he's primarily talking to women. But, a lot of this information, like I said, literally goes to both sides. I rarely see it where it just ends up on one side. So now let's literally talk about what he is saying. So he is basically talking about past trauma, past hurts, past concerns. Can you discuss them with your person? And what he is saying, at the end of that, he basically said about 10% of men will be able to handle that information. And he's saying 90% of men will not be able to handle that situation. And there's a part of what he is saying that I agree with, and there's a part of what he is saying I disagree with. See, I really want you all to meet and talk to, mature people. I don't want you talking to immature people. And what I find a lot is that people are really kind of gearing you to what I would consider the average person. And the average person, believe it or not, is not really what I would want you to talk to and or marry. So when we start to talk about averages, it's like people say the whole 1 out of 10 thing. And the average of that is 5. It's not 7. We love to say 7, but it's really 5. Because 7 is actually above average. That's when you're actually starting to get into that higher, rating. But when you start talking about the average is closer to 5. But what do I always talk about on this channel? I'm always telling everybody to do what? Do your best to get to 10. You should be moving towards 10 every single day. And you should be using this, okay, along with, your faith in God, if you are a Christian, to move you to a place where you're doing better every single day. All right. So you're working on yourself every single day. But that work should happen for the rest of your life. It should not end once you get into a relationship. That's a really great way to get out of that relationship, to end up getting divorced or whatever, because the person wants who they're dating. They don't want a brand new person once they walk down the aisle, right? Okay, so you have to be working towards this every single day. So let's get back to what Mr. Gaskin's saying. So what he's basically, like I said, talking about is he doesn't want, women, but I would say men as well, to bring their trauma to the person in front of them. And I honestly disagree with that. And the reason why I say this is because if you're dealing with a mature person, which I'm encouraging you, like I said, to find a mature person, they should be able to handle it. But the weight of your drama is different. And that is where I think the issue comes. And I understand where he's coming from when it comes to the weight of it. All right. So, for instance, it's hard for someone to take certain things in. You don't really know what they're taking in. So let's give an example, right? So if you are a woman and you had an abortion, right? You will be surprised. That's not a big deal for a lot of men. It's really not. Unless you went behind the man's back and you was actually married and you went behind his back and you did something like that. That is showing a sneakiness that a lot of men won't like. So because of that, if you have trauma based off that, I would almost, say, yeah, you might not want to say you went behind a man's back and got an abortion. All right. But if you basically were dating a man and then, you found out you were pregnant and then you told the guy and then he broke up with you and then you were like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? And then you decided to get an abortion and you only did it once. A lot of men can handle that. That's really not that weighty. You see what I'm saying? And so, but again, I agree with him. If you're dealing with an immature man, you can't do it. At that point, you can't do it. Right? But it's the same thing I would tell men. And again, for the women that have watched this channel, I've said this before. As a man, if you're having financial trouble, okay, you cannot actually discuss that with your woman. You can never discuss that with your woman. That, unfortunately, is something you have to discuss with your boys. Why? Because it lines up with the three principles that women are looking for. They're looking for a protector, a provider, and a leader. So that provider piece, if you don't have your money right, a lot of women are just not going to go through the fire with you. All right. So you can tell a woman like, hey, I lost my job or this, and this, but you tell her like a fact but you don't give her the emotion on said fact. You take that emotion and you take that to your boys and then you come up with a solution and you give her the solution. But again, when we go back to the woman and we're dealing with the whole abortion thing, see, the abortion itself doesn't go against the three rules that men are looking for, which is beauty, kindness, okay, and support. But when a woman goes behind a man's back, that goes against kindness and it goes against support. So at that point, most men are not going to be able to deal with it because at that point, you've gone against the three cardinal rules. So as long as it's not lining up with the cardinal rules, it really doesn't matter as much. All right. But again, you have to weigh the maturity of your person. Now, here is a trick if you really want to get information out of someone. Most people, especially when it comes to emotional things, they really want to talk about it. That's what they want to do. They want to talk about it. So the easiest way for you to get information out of someone and to learn about their past, okay, is to be in a conversation. When they bring up their past, just be and wait. And in your brain, count 5 to 7. Count 5 to 7 because some people count fast. So if you count fast in your head, you might need to count to 7. And what you'll find is a lot of people, especially when they're going through or talking about something emotional, it's hard for them to make pauses. It's hard for them to make clean breaks. So after they make a pause, they're expecting you to come in and say something and actually take the conversation in another direction. So when you actually give a pause, a long pause, many people will pick it right back up and start to continue to talk. So that's a really great way to get information out of someone. And again, this is both male and female. Get this information out of someone so that you can learn about their past if you really want to learn it.
You never want to tell a man is how many men you have slept with. The reason being is because a man will never tell a woman how many women he has slept with unless it's like zero. Unless he's a virgin, 9 out of 10 men are going to lie. It doesn't mean that you have to lie to a man. But if a man asks that question, he's asking the question solely to use it against you. He's asking the question to paint a picture of you.
All right, so let's talk about that. Okay, I honestly don't believe either side should say, how many partners they have been with. Again, if you've been tracking with me for a while, if you are a man, a lot of men, I'll just be honest, ladies, they can't handle the number. And what's really interesting, again, it's always interesting to listen to people's perspective. Like, I'm gonna be honest with you. If you're a man and you've only been with like 0 women and you're over 25, a lot of women are actually going to, use that against you. Okay, unless you are in a serious Christian type environment where everyone is truly celebrating, virginity, which honestly, in a Christian environment, they should. But as a man, I'm just going to be real. The older you get, the more it plays against you. Because a lot of women, even Christian women, they should care about that and they should lift it up. But a lot of them don't. Because there's this mindset that you don't know what to do yet. And a lot of women don't like to teach in certain areas. All right. They like for things to be more smooth. Okay. So generally speaking, I would not encourage men to talk about, how many sexual partners they've had. And I would not encourage women to do it as well, because again, a lot of men, ladies, cannot handle the number, right? Because you might be a lady watching me and you might have only had 2 people, right? Or 1 person. But I'm going to be real. Ladies can get sex 10 times easier than men can. And if a woman is decently attractive and she is, decently out, she really is trying to date, her numbers can get up there. All right. And a lot of men, they'll be okay with 1, 2, 3, but the more you get to double digits, the more they cannot handle it. See, a lot of men can't handle the concept of a woman being with multiple men. All right. A lot of men just cannot handle that because there's a lot of insecurity. There's a lot of things, like I said, where women are looking for a man, to perform. A lot of women lock in on sex in a different way that a lot of men do. And so they think about it. And I'm also going to be real. A lot of men, like the average man, see, again, when I listen to Mr. Gaskins, it feels like he's leaning towards that top 20% of men instead of the average man, because the average man does not get that much sex. The average man, has to work a little bit harder in order to get it. All right. And like I say, nobody has to say nothing in the comments, to out yourself. But when it boils down to it, it's different for men and women. I'm just being real. A man can go out if he looks, great and he's able to, strike up conversations with women and different things like that. That particular man is going to be able to have, a lot more sex partners. And women, who generally, need more of a connection, those women are going to go slower. But what the numbers show and the statistics show is that as women and men get closer and closer to 13 or 14 partners, at that point, there's not as much connection anymore. So as women have more and more partners, women tend to have more and more sex because now their reservations from having sex, start to diminish. All right. So once a woman's been out here, she's been on these streets for 10, 15 years, and she's been dating a lot because she's trying to find her man. It is very possible that she could have gone, up there to 12 and 13. And at that point, a lot of men will be turned off by it. Okay. And so from that standpoint, a lot of women just don't need to say nothing. All right. And I would encourage women just to focus on one or two boyfriends. And if you gotta just say something, just be like, I had one or two boyfriends. Yes, I had sex with them. But I really didn't do much. Just say something like that. When I wasn't in a committed relationship. To get around that question. And then for a lot of men that have only been with a few women, again, you don't really have to say all of that. You could just talk about the committed relationships that you've been in. Because unfortunately, we live in a world that can demonize you if you've had none, and it can demonize you if you've had a lot. And so when it boils down to it, mature people should move beyond it, to be honest with you. And it should not even be really something that really comes up. And if that question comes up, I'm always, especially for the women, if it comes up from a man, I would really start to look deeper into his own insecurity. And for a lot of men, I would not encourage you really to try to, ask her that question. I would just more from a man, if you just have to know, all you have to do is just think about how many boyfriends she's been with. If she's had 3 boyfriends, she's had a sex at least 3 times. If she is had at least 2 or 3 years between each boyfriend, she's probably had sex at least one time, between that time, just being real. So, she if 3 boyfriends over 15 years is probably somewhere between 5 and 7. Okay, if not more. So that's how you can look at it, and women can kind of look at it the same way. But I don't really encourage you to go deep into that. That's really not the main thing you should be paying attention to. It should be more of who they are as a person. Are they a good person to be a friend? It's always about friendship. You need to find a good friend, and they need to be mature.
What they were taught or what they were shown. So you don't want to tell a man how many men you have been with sexually. Even if it is 0, you can simply say that's none of your business. Women have to learn to be more assertive politely, meaning you can be direct and still be respectful and still be kind. And you can find a way to say it. If you know your accent or you know your personality, you can find a way to say, I would rather get to know you for you and not judge you by your past, and you not judge me by my past. And if a man is not mature enough and on that same wavelength, then he'll walk away. He'll say, well, "Hey, this is non-negotiable for me. It was great knowing you. Have a nice life," and go on about it. But one thing I can guarantee you, he'll only do that if you don't look like his wife, sound like his wife, move like his wife, talk like his wife, act like his wife. Meaning, if you are who he wants, he will adjust, he will adapt, and he will make exceptions that he has not made for any other woman that he's dated.
And with that, I agree. If somebody likes you, they are going to make adjustments for you. And men do this and women do this. And we talk a lot about women who do this, and we talk a lot about double standards because we'll say that a woman will be like, well, I don't want a man to do XYZ, but then she will allow the man that she really likes to do XYZ. But again, just like I said at the very beginning of this video, men and women really aren't that different. So when a man runs into a woman that he really likes, many times he will accept things from her that he would not accept, from other women. However, I do believe that women lean into this a slightly bit more than men do. So I do definitely think you have to watch that. Okay, if you're a woman, but because I think men kind of run out of patience with it a little bit quicker than women do. I think it's more societal based where society encourages women to kind of deal with it, deal with the man's problems, so to speak.
The third thing you don't want to tell a man is your complete vision of what you want in a man. You don't want to read a man your script, is what I call it. If you go on a date and you do too much talking and you read a man your script, when you read him your script, he will pick the star role in your script. He will pick that role and he will play that role until you award him with an Oscar. And then he will drop you and he will go on to the next project.
So with that, again, I agree and disagree. What he is talking about there is the representative. And I know a lot of women have heard that concept of the representative is a big thing in these dating spaces. And if you're new to my channel and you're just now tracking with me, one of the things that I do on this channel is I try to take a lot of information that people give and actually give the pros and cons to it, the backs and forth to it, and to give more information, right? Because on this channel, we talk about three distinct personalities. There's a lot more than this, but we talk about the three because I'm trying to let people know not to put men and women into boxes, right? So instinct driven is one of the types. Another one is the heart type, and another one is the thinking type. So again, if you're new to my channel, I know all this is new to you. So, you'll have to kind of rock with me for a while. Instinct driven men will not change. They will always be who they are. When you talk to them, when you move with them, when you groove with them, they are who they are from the very beginning of the relationship to the end of the relationship. What he just said right there, when it comes to an instinct driven person, is 100% not true. 100% not true. And instinct driven men are about, like I say, about 25 to 30% of the men that are out here, okay, have some instinct driven nature to them. All right. These are the people that are the presidents of the world. They are the CEOs of the world. They own their own businesses. They are managers. All right. These are your super ambitious types of guys. And most of these guys are not going to bow down and change who they are for the woman in front of them. In fact, what they're going to be trying to do, if anything, is to try to get you to get onto their program. And again, if you've been tracking with me for a while, I'm always talking about find a man whose train has left the station. And I guarantee you, an instinct-driven guy, his train is moving 100 miles an hour. So it's going to be hard for you to link to him. And for you to link to him, he is going to tell you how you have to act in order to link to him. And this is one of the things that I'm always telling women to look for if you want a more instinct-driven man. Because the instinct-driven man is going to give you rules. He's going to give you rules and regulations on how it's going to work with him. And when you're dealing with those types of men, okay, they're not playing games with you. Now, if you're an instinct-driven woman, okay, and I'm trying to tell people all the time, instinct-driven men, instinct-driven women, again, they act pretty much the same. So that's why it's hard for a lot of instinct-driven women to date instinct-driven men, because both of them will argue over who is the primary train, who is the engineer, who is the conductor, who is the director, who is the leader. Okay, because both of them want to be leaders, right? So what he is talking about the thinking man, the man who is the thinking type. And the thinking type of man is actually the most common. About 40% or so of men are thinking types. All right. It's the same thing for women. Okay. About 40% of women are thinking types. So what he's talking about, like I said, is the thinking type. And the thinking type, what they're trying to do is they're trying to mold themselves into what they think, okay, is going to be the most acceptable. All right. That is what thinking types do. They're like chameleons. All right. So they go in, they take in all this information, and then they turn themselves into what they believe the world wants them to do. And when they get with you, they're doing the same thing. They're turning themselves into the person they think you want to see. Now, if you are a woman and you are a thinking type, you have to recognize you are praised. You are praised for that ability. Why? Why would you say, Jay, why in the world would you say that? Well, it's like this. Most thinking types can emulate the person that they're hanging out with about 80%. So if I am dating and I marry a thinking type and I teach her all the information that you guys are getting right now, then I could actually turn her in from whatever she was doing before. She could be almost just as knowledgeable as me. And then now we could partner and tag team on video. See, you see what I'm saying? So she could almost be like me because she's a thinking type, even though she's not. Even though she's not an instinct type, she could be a lot like me because she's a thinking type. Because that is what thinking types do. And because I am building something, like if I was a baker or I was a carpenter or whatever, she comes into that world and she becomes that. And so that is praised generally from men. We praise that. But women don't praise that because they're looking for a man to lead. And this is why I encourage thinking type men not to panic, not to worry. Okay. There are always solutions, and we're always about solutions on this channel. So, what thinking men need to do is they need to prepare beforehand. Okay. That's all you have to do, thinking types. Prepare beforehand. So, how do you do this? When you are getting your information, right? Because thinking types love to get information. So you need to be reading books. You need to find mentors, whether they're on the, social media or whatever. You need to find them. Okay. And then what you want to do is you want to learn from them, but you need to find the people that you really want to learn from. Don't just listen to everybody. Okay. It's really important for thinking types not to listen to everybody. You need to listen to the people, okay, that you feel are going to be the best for your life and what you want in your life. And you get that, you read, you get a lot of information, and you prepare beforehand. So if you're going to take a woman, for instance, to a restaurant, you want to know that restaurant. You don't want to go to a restaurant that's unfamiliar, because instinct types, we think on our toes. So it's easy for us to kind of figure stuff out very quickly. But thinking types can get lost in their head. All right. So for a thinking type, it might be better for you to go to the restaurant before you take the woman to the restaurant, or for you to actually pick 4 or 5 restaurants, in your city and go to them often and generally take your dates to those 4 or 5, because that way you already know. But what you don't want to do as a thinking type is actually tell the woman that you have prepared. They tell the woman that you follow someone. To tell the woman XYZ, all you have to do is just tell her, I like to read, I like to learn. That is it. Because if you start going around, and I don't care if you are listening to Mr. Gaskins or you're listening to me, and you're basically saying, oh, well, Jay Stovall said, blah, 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 blah. Oh, Tony Gaskins said, blah, 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 blah. Then from a woman's perspective, she's always looking for the best that she can get. So if you are quoting another man and then giving that man credit in her presence, then she's going to want to leave you and go after that man. All right. So you don't want to do that, men. But a woman can do it. A woman can actually be in front of a man and talk about, hey, I watched this particular person, I watched that particular person, because a man that is locked into who he is just going to ignore it and be like, oh, okay, well, I'm glad he said that, but over here we do XYZ. And see, that's that difference, right? And then heart type men may or may not do this, to kind of emulate, who they think you want. But heart types will have the most difficult time doing it over time, because that desire to give and that desire to be of service is going to, really creep up within the man. But it's like I've said before, a lot of women really should give a lot of heart type men a lot more attention, because those men will really love you. They will romance you. They will take care of you in ways that you've never thought. All right. So again, to get back to what he is saying, just to make it clear, there's only a portion of men that will do this. It's about roughly, it's not quite 50%, but I know that's why he is saying that, because he is focusing in on that 50% instead of looking at the whole spectrum.
Let a man show you who he is instead of telling him who you want him to be.
Let me say this right here. One of the things that I actually was just at a meeting last night, and it was really interesting because one of the things that came up was whether or not, men who say certain things and men who do certain things. So for both the men and women that are watching me, like I said, it's really not that much difference between men and women. But what I want all of you to do is I want you to listen, but I also want you to watch. What they do should be about 65 to 70% of what you pay attention to, but what they say should be about another 30% or so. You don't want to lean on what they say, okay? Because talk, as people say, is cheap, okay? So somebody's actions, are worth a heck of a lot more than their words. And a lot of women especially get caught up in what a man says he's going to do. Okay, don't listen to what a man say he gonna do. You need to be looking at what he doing right now. Okay, that's it. And I told women if the train ain't left the station, like literally at this particular thing I was at last night, one of the ladies told me that she had dated like 3 guys. None of them had jobs. She trying to help them with their resume. She trying to help them get on their feet. And I literally told her, I was like, why are you doing that? Why are you doing that? Well, I no, 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 no. It is not a woman's job to help the man with his 3 primary goals, okay, which is protection, provision, and leadership. If he cannot do those 3 things, he has to figure that out on his own with his boys. And it's the same thing when I tell men, okay, there's 3 primary things that women need to do. You cannot help them with that. Yes, there'll be things on social media where some guy, found a woman that was an ugly duckling and he turned her into a swan. Okay, and people praise that stuff. But that is not what I would encourage anybody to do. Now, if the potential is there, okay, because I know people going to be in the comments saying, well, you said like 5 videos. No, if the potential is there, if the woman is already attractive, but right now she's looking like a 7 and she could look like a 9, okay, then the potential is already there. She might just not have the money, or she might not, know what types of clothes that fit her best and blah, blah, blah. That's different. Okay, it's like I told you, I'll find a woman and she's decently cute, and then I will do my best to invest in her to glow her up. I don't have a problem with that. But if a woman is basically a 3 out of 10, no, and I see the potential that one day she could be a 9 out of 10 because she's walking in 3 out of 10, that's a choice. That is a choice to be a 3 out of 10 because I believe everybody can be up there. And I've said that before. So for me, if I run into a woman that's a 3 out of 10, now I'm not helping you, boo. You on your own. But if you already at a 6.5 and you kind of going back and forth, and I see, well, if you change your hairstyle, if you, change your jeans or something like that, because maybe she's wearing too many baggy clothes or whatever it is, then, oh, yeah, I'll invest in that. Okay, as long as I see the potential that she's willing to work on it. It's the same thing with a woman. If you are out here and you have a guy and he's working on a business, but the business is already there, it's established. It's been going for 6 or 7 months. And then now you meet him after 6 and 7 months, and he's making about $1,500, $2,000 a month. Then you can say, hey, I'll make phone calls for you. Or, if you actually do something like web design or social media, you can do that for him. You can do a little labor for him, but you don't sit around and, and help him get going. Like I told you, if the train has to be moving, okay, if the train is not moving, which is talking about the man and his ambition and his life, if it's not moving at least 25 miles an hour, you have to leave him alone. Now, I said earlier, ambitious men are moving at 100 miles an hour. So that just lets you know that difference. All right. So if a man is moving at least 25, I'll say you can deal with it. But if he ain't moving at least 25 miles per hour, you got to leave him alone. Okay, because you don't want the man that's in the station. And that's what a lot of women end up with, especially women that are heart types, because they trying to help the man get out of the station. And it was his parents that were supposed to do that work. You cannot do that work. Okay, you cannot do work for men or women that are watching me. You cannot do work in here or in here. Okay, these 2 places, if the person ain't got these 2 things, it ain't nothing you can do. You got to leave them alone. And you got to move on to the next person. It don't matter how much potential they have. It doesn't matter how attractive they are. It doesn't matter if you ain't had, been in a relationship in 10 years. You got to leave that person alone because all you're going to do is cause yourself more stress dealing with them.
The 4th thing you should not tell a man is about your last relationship. See, the past is the past. So what you want to do is you want to tell this man when he says, so, have you been in a relationship before? Yes, I have. How many have you been in? None, really. I don't really count them like that because if I'm single and available today, that means that they don't really matter. And, well, what happened with your last relationship? We didn't see eye to eye, and it just wasn't a good fit. What do you mean by that? I don't really know how to explain it. It just wasn't a good fit, and it's not something that I want to talk about. Past is the past. Notice how, and I want you to learn how I'm answering these questions in a very aloof kind of way. The thing, what it has been said that women speak 25,000 words a day and men speak 10,000 words a day. The person who speaks the less has the most power. So when you talk too much and you tell too much business, you set yourself up for failure. So what I mean by that is, if you take and you go through this whole scenario, well, and you say you and your ex-boyfriend, y'all were together for 3 years, and he cheated on you, and you forgave him, and then you caught him cheating again, and you forgave him, and then you got mad, y'all started fighting, he choked you almost till you passed out, but y'all went to counseling for 3 or 4 sessions, decided to work it out, got back together, you got pregnant, he forced you to get rid of it, then you caught him cheating again, and this time it was with your ex best friend.
Okay, I don't know what, boy, that example really far out there. I thought my examples was out there. That's a hard example, right there. Well, it's a couple things I don't agree with when it comes to what he just said right there. And ladies, just to be honest, he talked about the whole thing, 25,000 words and 10,000 words. If you talk to a man about the things that he's interested in, you will be surprised how many words you get out of him. That's always interesting to me about the whole word thing, because I find that men do talk and they talk a lot, but they talk about the things that they're interested in. And a lot of times women just aren't interested in the things that men are interested in, but, so the men just know not to talk about it anymore. Where the women just, even if the man is not interested, they just keep on talking. So that's just a tip for you. If you want to get more out of the man, then you need to ask him more about the things that he cares about. Now, let's get to the main thing that he is saying. He's basically talking about, do not, tell a man about, your older relationships. Again, I don't agree with that. But I also will say it depends upon the maturity of the man. For me, if a woman is very aloof about, her background, about what she's been through, and she can't give me at least like a 10 or 15-minute synopsis of what happened in the relationship, that to me is a huge yellow flag. It's not a red flag, but it is a yellow flag. And it could go into a red flag if I see any behaviors that I think are off. Because what I do want to know is I want to know a little bit about, the relationship, what she's learned, and also how, how it went down. Okay, I do. And I think a lot of men want to know that. And I think for a lot of women, they want to know that. But I also think, again, this is one of those things on the internet. It depends upon your type of person and the type of person that you are. Some people work really well up front. It's kind of like I've learned there's two major types of daters. You have the first type of dater that is very flirty. And as soon as you meet them, whether you're male or female, as soon as you meet them, they're very flirty, they're very open. It's all, ways, talk, flirt, flirt, flirt. Nobody's really talking about anything of substance. It's just all about let's have fun in this moment, right? That is how some people, in fact, I would say that's how most people believe that you're supposed to date over the first 1 or 2 dates and maybe even the first 1 or 2 conversations. And then you have another group of people, which are, like I say, they're in, the smaller amount because the world doesn't really encourage you to be this way. And they're more of a thinking in the beginning. And so what they want to do is gather data. And they're trying to truly gather data, i.e. be on a date is data. And they really are trying to gather data. And they're trying to use that data to figure out whether or not they want to continue with the relationship. Right? And so it's hard for those people to truly be open until they've gathered enough data. Right? So these are really your two major types of date of people that date. And remember, there's always a million little people in between. We're not saying 2 buckets. We're talking about 2 extremes. All right. So now when you're dealing with people, everybody's going to be slightly different depending upon how they like to go through it. And like I've encouraged you all to do is on the first couple of dates, always ask 2 or 3 very important questions that you want to know. Don't overdo it, Okay, you maybe want that to be 15 minutes within an hour of a conversation. So don't overdo it, but try to ask at least one or two things so you can have a little bit of an understanding about that person. And again, you're dealing with maturity here. All right. You're dealing with maturity. And so I know a lot of the stuff that he's probably leaning into is he's dealing with that average person. And unfortunately, in America, the average person is not a good person. America at its base, I love America. I love, this country. But the bottom line is there's so much advertisement and other things that encourages people to just be the least that they can be. Right. And so depending upon who people are around is going to depend on whether or not they're going to head towards 10. And so when you're dealing with the average person, male or female, the average person is leaning a little bit more immature. But like I said, a lot of immature people, they're not ready for marriage. They're not. And I don't encourage you guys to be in boyfriend-girlfriend relationships. That is not what this channel is about. This channel is about marriage. So when I talk to you all, I'm not talking to you from a place where, oh, I want to help you get a boyfriend, or I want to help you get a girlfriend, or I want to help you get laid. Okay, that's not how I'm talking to you. I'm talking to you with a mindset to try to get you to line up and understand what you need to do in order to get married. And if you're hanging around with immature people, that is saying something about you, because you should not be around immature people. You should leave them alone. Okay, so if you're a man and you're dealing with a woman who is straight up immature, leave her alone. If you're a woman and you're dealing with a man who is immature, leave, him alone. If you're a man and you run into a woman who does not care about her beauty, she's given up. She does not care about being nice. She's like, you just have to take me for being me. And you're dealing with a woman who is not supportive, leave her alone. She does not understand what it takes to be married. Women, if you're dealing with a man, okay, he don't want to pay for nothing. Okay, that is the whole provider piece. He doesn't want to lead. He wants you to do and take the lead on everything. Okay, and then he doesn't want to protect you. So every time something comes up, he doesn't even halfway, try to protect you from it. Okay, leave that dude alone. He is not ready for marriage. And I don't care how well these people speak. I don't care what they look like on the outside. And I'm gonna be real with you. I would encourage you not to have sex with them, because I know people get all whatever and I know how it is. I'm just being real. And even though there is a cross on the screen, I'm just gonna just tell you straight up: your energy goes before you. And I'm always telling you guys that your energy goes before you. So if you're spending time with people and you're intimate with their energy, that energy gets on you and now it goes before you. So if you've been dating immature people and you're getting that energy on you, especially sexually, because sex is a strong bond, okay, and you get that energy on you, now it goes before you. And so you run into more and more people like the one you left. All right. So it's really important what you do and how you line yourself up. But immature people do not make good spouses. Okay. You need someone that when times are horrible, absolutely horrible, that person is still going to be mature.
They won't put up with anything that next time after. But some people will end up putting up with more because they're like, if this is happening again, this must be normal. This must be a part of a relationship. This must be what happens. And if I leave this one, now I got to go back to my friends and family with my head hung low in shame, and I have another failed relationship. If you tell a man that you got cheated on and you stayed, now you have just told him he could cheat on you. And so the thing about it is he may not even want to be with you for life. He may just want to waste your time for a year or two. So although he knows you eventually left your ex, he's okay with that, because if you get the strength to leave him, he's already had you. He's already slept with you. He's already used you, abused you. He's already done what he need to do, got the money off of you for his business idea, lived with you for the time he needed somewhere to lay his head, borrowed your car for the time he needed a car. So by the time you get fed up and you say, well, I'm finna leave your butt too, just like I left my exes, he's like, good riddance. I'm done with you anyways. I'm ready to move on to.
Again, I want to just point out how he talked about that. remember, he's talking about a guy who doesn't have a place to live, a guy who needs you to invest in his business, a guy that's doing all these things. So what is that? That's a guy you should have never been talking to in the first place. That's a guy that should have never made it past the second date. And so that's why I say we're talking, and I want to make sure I put a pin on this, because a lot of times I think with a lot of dating, coaches and other people that are out here, and again, nothing against Mr. Gaskins, but his audience is a certain audience. And my audience, I'm hoping, is a slightly different audience. So my audience, I really want them, like I say, you all to get married. And I want y'all to focus in on the things of marriage. So a man that is acting like what he just described is not a man that any woman that follows me should be dating, should be hanging out with, should be living with, whatever. Okay? Because that man is not going to marry you. Okay? You all should be looking towards marriage-worthy men at all times. Okay? And if a man is not marriage-worthy, you need to leave him alone. And for the men that are watching me, if you're looking for a woman that's the same thing, she should be marriage worthy. If she's not marriage worthy, leave her alone. All right? Okay, it's really important, because he just talked about it from a woman's perspective, saying what to look out for. But there are women, guys, that will do the same thing. They will try to eat up your money. They will try to live with you, because some women ain't got no place to stay. They will try to do a lot of things, just like he said, and just kind of use you for a while, to get to where they're trying to go, and then drop you off, especially if they think you are the type that will put up with them. Because a lot of cute women think they can get away with anything, and they think their beauty is going to get over. And that's why I'm always telling you all, even the men, you should be friends with the woman. It's really hard for a woman to get over on you if she is your friend. I mean, it really is. Because now it's not about how pretty she is. It's not about how much you want to sleep with her. It's about, do you want to hang out with her? Do you want to laugh with her? Do you want to play with her? Do you want to do and have fun in life with her? Right? And so if that's not there, okay, then it's like, okay, why is she here? Why is she wasting my time? Right? And so for the men that are watching, that's how you stay away from a lot of women that would abuse you, okay, and just take advantage of you. Because I know a lot of the men that watch me, they have their money right and they have their life right. Okay, they're going in the right direction. And so you have to avoid women, okay, that want to hurt you. So he just ran out. He literally said that the last thing he couldn't remember wasn't a big deal. But the main thing that I would always encourage you all to do, as I have throughout this entire video, is to be friends. Okay? A friend, it's really hard for a friend to get over on you. It's really hard for a friend to hurt you. And so I'm always saying, when you're around the person, okay, if, like I said, you couldn't do anything with them, okay, if they literally were going to get married the next day, would you still want to call them? Would you still want to hang out with them? Would you still want to talk to them? All right. Like, I literally have, and I do believe that you should watch. No, don't get me wrong. I'm about to give an example, but I do believe you should watch relationships with married people. Okay. But I do have about 2 or 3 friends that are married. Okay. These women are married. And when I get on the phone with them, I could be on the phone with them for 2 or 3 hours, literally. And we'll talk about stuff, we'll laugh, we'll joke, we'll have a good time. But then I'll respect their husbands, and then I might not talk to them again for maybe 6 months, right? So this is not me, overstepping my bounds. But I'm trying to, give you all this point. If you cannot do that, if you cannot be in the presence of the person, or on the phone with the person for several hours and just have a good time, knowing that you're not going to even be able to kiss them. You're not even going to be able to hold their hand. You're not going to be able to do anything. You're just going to be able to be in their presence, talk to them, have a good time with them. If you cannot do that with a person, you do not need to date them. You do not need to spend time with them. You especially don't need to marry them. And so it's really important for you all to get that. And when you have that, a lot of times it trumps everything that he's talking about. Because like I said, all those problems start to go away. So there's a lot of really great stuff in the description. I'm talking a lot about, like I said, I really want you guys to watch old sitcoms. You know, I forgot about Blackish the other day, but I thought about that again. So I put that down there because like Blackish, again, it's just a series where two people are trying to make it work, because marriage is two people trying to make it work. Okay. It is not, you know, puppies and rainbows. All right. It is two people trying to make it work, trying to make their friendship work through adversity. All right. And so I've got resources down in there in that description to try to help you if you're interested in that. All right. And some of those things do help to support me, you know, if you're interested in that. Now, I want you, like I said, if you're new and this helped you, please subscribe. All right. And then you can give it that big thumbs up, because that definitely helps the algorithm, you know, for YouTube. And I will see you all in the very next video.